Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on empowering halal supply chains through traceability tech. My name is Zohaila Sideh from MATRADE, and I'll be your moderator for this session. As we all know, ladies and gentlemen, the global halal economy is growing rapidly, covering food, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, logistics, and more. But with growth comes greater complexity. And ensuring trust, compliance, and transparency in halal supply chains is even more critical than ever. That's why today we're very fortunate to have with us Dassault System, a global leader in digital solutions for industry and supply chains. Today, Dassault Systems will be represented by Mr. Tan Ken Chu, its CPGR Business Consultant Director, Mr. Samuel Tan, Regional Partner, Sales Manager of Dassault System, and Mr. Walid Darguh, its Solution Director at Dassault System based in Italy. Together, we'll explore how advanced technologies like traceability platforms, digital twins, and data analytics can safeguard halal integrity and open new opportunities for exporters. To begin, I'd like to invite Mr. Tan Ken Chu, or who we can address as Ken, to share an overview of why traceability is such an important topic in supply chains today. And he will also be joined by Mr. Samuel, who will then expand further on specifically what it means, what traceability solution means for the halal industry. Without further ado, I would like to invite Ken and Samuel to take the floor.
Assalamualaikum, Joanna. What a pleasure and delight to join you in this particular webinar. So maybe allow me first to start on to share my screen, to share very quick highlight what Dassault Systems is all about. Because in Malaysia, oftentimes we are more associated with Dassault Aviation, which is more the aircraft engineering part of the company. But we are the Dassault Systems. By the way, the company name will come up shortly. So give you a little bit of background about the company, and then I want to quickly transition to a time of dialogue with Johala already. That would be the main highlight for us today. So for us as a company, we do have a purpose. By the way, Dassault Systems here is not wrong spelling. It's a French spelling, not English spelling. As a purpose, we really want to empower businesses and people when you do the innovation to incorporate, first of all, the product, incorporating nature, and of course, incorporating life, meaning to say improving life that you and I know about. So as a company, we are based out in Paris as a headquarters. I'm dialing from Singapore. On the top right, in terms of purpose as a company, we want to be able to combine art, science, and tech, and allow companies, our clients, to work in a more sustainable world. Globally, on the left, we have about 25,000 people from about 145 countries. In terms of the number of locations, we have about 184 sites globally, and they're still growing. We do have one global R&D organization, but we have about 77 labs scattered throughout the world. If I move back to the other side again, in terms of revenue, we are looking at about 6 billion in terms of revenue per year on Dassault System. And globally, in terms of employee, we have, in terms of the partners, we have over 14,000 people in our partners ecosystem. And our partners include companies that work with us, both in terms of R&D, as well as implementing our product in terms of system integration. And then finally, globally, we have about 370,000 customers worldwide, and these are scattered across 12 different industries. Now, on the left side on the screen, what you see is these are different brands that we have across Dassault Systems. And each brand has specific purpose, specific mission. On the right side of the screen, you will have basically the 12 different industries that we serve. And what's interesting, Johala, is that what we learn from one industry oftentimes is portable. We apply to the next industry. So there's very much a cross-fertilization of the knowledge and know-how from one industry to the next. So here, I'd like to invite Samuel to jump in quickly to talk briefly about the specific halal market aspect, not just in Malaysia, but globally too.
All right, thank you, Ken, and a good day to everybody. So, we as Dassault System, we are very well aware of the potential and the growth of the halal industry in Malaysia. Right, very recently we saw that there's a surge in the halal exports in Malaysia. Just referring to some of the numbers you can see on the screen here, we have seen how year-to-year growth there has been doubling in terms of numbers as well. And even by the year 2030, I think the expected market potential is expected to reach close to 70 billion ringgit, right? And we see that not just that, there are a lot of good work being done in Malaysia. For example, we understand that the government has started on the halal industry master plan, right? There's also a lot of certifications reforms in the industry as well. And more importantly, I think with the strong government support from the Halal Development Corporations, MATRADE and MIDA, there's been a lot of robust institutional support in terms of setting up the halal parks to promote the growth of the halal industry, not just locally, but globally as well. Right, if you jump to the next slide, you'll see that we identified some of the key trends and challenges in the halal community today in Malaysia. Right, of course, we know that a couple of years back, there were some halal meat scandal issues, right? And of course, even today's, the challenges continues to be faced by the industry in terms of the halal certifications integrity, right? And also in terms of the cost as well for many of the businesses in Malaysia. We know that it's driven by a lot of small, medium enterprises, and cost of certification is definitely one of the key areas as well. But not just looking at the challenges, we have identified some of the potentials and the trends that's happening in the market as well, right? As I think Zuhala has mentioned earlier, this is industry that's not just looking at food and beverages, right? We can see that it extends to the cosmetic industry and also the pharmaceutical industry as well. And not only that, we know that in Malaysia, the brand is a globally recognized standard, and that this is something that countries in the neighboring countries are also learning and also trying to adopt the same level of standards as well. But more importantly, I think one of the key questions that we need to ask ourselves in Malaysia is, do we have the right skill sets and the workforce that can really understand and adopt this technology as we move forward? And that is why one of the key areas that we would like to touch on later will be on the area of developments and trainings as well for the workforce. And last but not least, as we talk about all the different technologies, one of the key areas that we want to talk about is definitely about sustainability as well, right? It's a lot of tracking of information regarding the suppliers, regarding carbon footprints, and really finding ethical ways, right, to do manufacturing and to ensure that sustainability continues to stay as a key topic as we talk about halal certifications in the process as well. But I'd now like to hand over the time back to Ken, who will talk to us a little bit more about the solutions that we have. Ken, over to you.
Thank you, Samuel. Appreciate that. Talking about standards, Samuel mentioned that I understand Jakim is widely known to have the gold standards when it comes to halal. So that's something I think Malaysia needs to be proud of, right? So, okay, coming back to our company very briefly, and we're going to end soon on that. In terms of the industry, I represent, Wally represent, which is called consumer packaged goods and retail industry. So that will cover different, I'll call it segments. The first of which is food and beverage, which is by far the biggest chunk within our industry. And the second will be beauty and personal care. Is talk about mostly cosmetic industry. Then the third is household products. The fourth will be product packaging. This is a very unique industry standalone by itself, this particular segment. And lastly, general retailers. So this is how we, at least from our lenses, we look at the market based on these four different segments. Why? Because the challenges, the pain points are slightly different. There are commonalities, but they're also slightly different. Hence, our solution offering is a little different. Now, when you talk about the solution we bring to the market, Joella, we are more as a tech company. So basically, what we focus on is the development of what we call virtual twin. And this virtual twin is supposed to be able to simulate the real world, number one, in terms of product. When it comes to food and beverage or cosmetic, we talk about product formulation, for example. Number two, processes. So we'll talk about processes from the bench, which is R&D, bench to pilot, pilot to scale, scale to logistic to consumer. It's kind of end-to-end process that we're able to digitally map up the entire end-to-end process. So what we learn from the physical world, we then benefit the real world. So we focus on virtual twin, a virtual world, but we also learn from the real world, and it goes back again. Okay, so this is a very quick slide to show you quickly how slide on the left of the screen is what you focus on the different capabilities from R&D, product development, packaging, etc. And then when you bring the product, when our customers bring the product real life, they'll learn something new. And as they learn something new, they come back to the virtual world to bring in a new knowledge. They'll capitalize the new knowledge within the virtual world. So the virtual world keep learning. And within virtual world, there's a fair bit of machine learning and AI built in as well. So machine learning by default, there's a lot of self-learning that's already built in that will help companies to do better prediction based on the future scenario. Now, in terms of solution, we have roughly 4 different quadrants. If I may point to the top right corner, which is a consumer. So to me, everything starts from a consumer. We need to understand what consumer wants, consumer sentiment analysis. We need to do what you call both structured and unstructured kind of analysis of what the consumer wants. And then once you capture that, do we bring it, at least the marketing team will bring it to the R&D to describe the kind of new products we need to launch, which is on the bottom left, which is product and packaging. Packaging is part of the product. The product itself, we refer to formulation of the product, but it needs to be finalized in the packaging. And the top left after that, we talk about we need to then begin to source the ingredients from, to source which suppliers we need to work with. We need to simulate what you call S&OP planning. And finally, on the bottom right will be the manufacturing. So we have, let's say, 15, 16 factories located throughout the world. Each factory may not be of the similar digital maturity. How do you manage that? How do you source locally to minimize the carbon emission? And at the same time, we do on-time in full delivery to the retail market. Okay, so these are some of the KPIs to highlight based on what we have worked with our clients. And these are some KPIs that we have seen, some of the benefits we have seen. So these are just a quick slide just for sharing and awareness purposes, but I prefer to keep going, okay? So with that, maybe towards the end of the call, if there's anyone want to keep in touch with us, there's a good-looking young man, Samuel. He's responsible for Malaysia. The QR code is there. If you scan the QR code, you'll be able to reach out to him. So this slide may come back up again. So in the meantime, I should stop talking because I would really like to transition to our next segment, which is the main highlight, which is our dialogue together.
Thank you so much, Ken and Sam. Very brief but concise presentation. As you know, we spoke about this a little bit just now, about this issue, traceability, is a critical issue, but not everybody can fully understand, number one, the importance and how to do it and when to do it. So if you can simplify, for our Malaysian SMEs generally to understand why traceability solutions is important and how they can kickstart their journey to understand their supply chain better through traceability solutions.
Yeah, I think that's a great.
maybe-
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe I can take that question. I mean, traceability is very important today, and in order to do that, according to me, as Ken explained before, he showed different virtual twins from our side. So it's not just supply chain; it's also about the product. It's also about the manufacturing. So how you track from the product ideation onto the manufacturing till the supply chain. So you need a system of records. This is very important. If you don't have a system of records, it will be very difficult to trace your product. So the system of record will manage all, and you will gather all the information about your product. So there will be all the certificates, all the suppliers, etc. So all this ecosystem that are contributing, you will track all that information related to them, and you will manage that through what we call lifecycle approval, because you need to manage the data, you need to certify the data, you need to release the data. And then this will be connected also with your supply chain to downstream to the manufacturing. So from the initial management of the data, now you can manage the process, how you are transforming the product in the real, let's say in the manufacturing side, how you track also in the manufacturing all the qualities checks, how you are doing that, because you need, when we talk about halal, there is some methods, procedure that you need to respect even in the plants, etc. So you need to be sure that all the employees are following all the steps. And obviously, when you go to the supply chain, you need to track all that, the networking, the distribution, the cars, and all the logistics part that is going with it. So it's all about data management, and the data, it's everywhere, and you need a system of records to manage all that. We'll call it a backbone of all this data, where you will manage all such information. And it will be at any time when you have a query, you need to understand where you are. You need to question, let's say, or query your systems to get some of this information. And that point, this is where the traceability become key, because we are against fragmentation of the data, because you may have data in different places. Our aim at the Dassault system is to help customer to unify all this data, having all this system of records in one place. So having a single version of the truth of all of your data around your product, your manufacturing, and your supply chain. So this is a short answer, but I wanted to give not technical, but just to give you a short overview how the data can flow from the ideation to the supply chain. Obviously, we can go onto the distribution side. So we have customers that are using our solution even in the distribution, when I'm going even to the consumer, distributing to them the final product.
I
Thank you.
agree with Walid. I'll probably, maybe if I may compliment Zohaila, the question is, why is traceability become such a critical issue? I'll point to two factors. One is obviously, we all know that already, which is food safety. So if you have cross-contamination from a halal ingredients versus non-halal ingredients, down to the transportation, you want to be able to trace back real time, quickly, to find the root cause quickly and fix it right away. That's the obvious one. But the second one is actually less obvious. The first one is food safety. The second one is food wastage. So today, globally, if I think from the farm to fork, the whole value chain, about 1/3 of the total food produced globally is wasted or lost. So in terms of dollar value, it's about $1 trillion. It's wasted just like that, because not managed properly. Maybe the cold chain process not managed well. Maybe in terms of shelf life, not managed well. It expired too quickly. Transportation, delivery, sourcing from wrong places, warehouse management is not managed well. Production processes is not, work in progress inventory is not managed well, etc. So it's about 1/3. $1 trillion, not to even talk about the impact on greenhouse carbon emission. Globally, between 8% to 10% of greenhouse carbon emission come from the food lost through the value chain, end to end. 8 to 10%. So I think we can all need to be more responsible in being able to trace back the value chain from beginning to end. If we can trace that, we narrow down where the root causes are. If we know what the root causes are, only then we can begin to address the issue of food waste in this case.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. And I believe from what you shared earlier, when you adopt traceability management in your supply chain, then you will not only understand what's going on, but you will also find out new opportunities. Is that fair to say that? I mean, based on your experience working with the other industries, what did your clients share with you? You know, when they do traceability management, then did they ever discover new areas that they should explore, or anything that they should stop? You know, can you share a little bit from that perspective?
Yeah, I'll have a quick one first, and maybe Wallet can jump in later. I would say that the first motivation for most people who want to be more precise, taking traceability as a science rather than art, really is more for, firstly, for food safety, and also for the compliance standard. And the commercial motivation is actually minimize food waste. because food business, as some of you gentlemen, darling, ladies and gentlemen, darling, you know, it's not a very high profit margin business. So if we can save that 2%, that 3% from the food waste, for the loss, that 2 to 3% goes straight down into the bottom line already, because you don't need to deduct anymore. So I think that for many people that we work with, that is a very strong motivation.
Yeah, I will add also the fact that you are managing your supply chain. Obviously, this gives you a lot of opportunities, for example, to be more reactive, to answer to demands, because you know what you have, you can understand and predict, for example, the demand that you need to manage. So it become very important to have a digital tools, let's say, to help you to answer quickly and to answer to your customer at the end. Because at the end, if I have to answer a new demand or for a specific period, I needed to understand how much product I have also in my warehouse, etc. But how I can fulfill this demand, and this has become very important to understand all this traceability. Where are my supplier, and how I need to optimize the logistics part around it in order to fulfill and to answer quickly to that demand quickly. So this is where, at least our experience with other customer, more in this field, especially when it comes, for example, to fresh food. Fresh food is it have a limited shelf life. So how you can take value from fresh food to distribute it quickly to the end consumer. So this has become other opportunities, having a network of your supplier, managing in a digital way, and you know where are the located places, so you can answer quickly and fulfill any types of requirements and get value from your fresh food rather than freezing them, which it will lose. You will lose the quality, and it's not the same way.
Okay. And I of course F&B sector. I've worked with many industries, but F&B sector, because it's very relevant to Halal, of course, is a very unique industry. I like to say that it's a very emotional industry. You know, a lot of feelings involved. So people do care a lot more, compared to aerospace or automotive. So, but a lot of the times, the companies in this industry, uh, it can be beginners, intermediate, and advanced level. So we also work with a lot of beginners. So can you maybe help them understand from a layman's point of view? I know that you have a lot of great advanced solutions, but can you maybe explain to them the differences between virtual, how do you say that, digital twins, blockchain, IoT, all these jargons. Could you maybe explain to our audience? I'm pretty sure our friends out there are not really familiar, and maybe you as an expert, you can simplify, the understanding on these different types of models in digital solutions.
I'll take the first part, Walid, and you can take the second, the third part. But Joella, first of all, let me say I agree with you when I talk about food and beverage. It's very emotional. I'm convinced beyond any doubt that the best chicken curry in the world is my mom's chicken curry. So
My mom's chicken curry is the best.
exactly. So it's very emotional, tied to strong emotional, our childhood upbringing experiences. Sometimes even before tasting, you smell it. I'm home. That kind of thing. So you're right, absolutely very emotional. Now let me come to what some people may call digital twins, and we call it virtual twins. And within the digital twin, Johanna, and virtual twin, there's a slight difference.
Okay.
Digital twin usually means is the image replica of the object. So that image itself is just an image. I can turn right, I can turn left, I can 360, etc. But that object, there's no that was called engineering or parametric characteristic built in. Whereas a virtual twin, we have the engineering parametric built in. Meaning to say, if I show a bottle and this bottle is a PET plastic, it will recognize accordingly. If it's glass, it will recognize accordingly. I can do a drop test of a glass, drop test of a plastic bottle, and it will behave differently. So it mimics the behavior of the real world because it has the parametric element built into the model. That's why it's called virtual twin. But virtual twin was a virtual twin of a product, as I mentioned earlier, and virtual twin of processes That means I can take the entire supply chain. If the company orders a product from, let's say, 200 different companies, all the supply chain, who sells the product, which company are we buying from, which product, what is your price of goods, delivery time, are they Halal certified, are they not Halal certified, all that can be on a virtual twin basis. So I'll leave for the second and third, which is the blockchain or IoT, or some people call IIoT.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a bit solutions. By the way, food is a great experience. So that's why I like also food and beverage, because at the end it's an experience, and we want to join, and it's a joinable moment with people. So that's why food and beverage is really a great industry. But yeah, when we go a little bit more on the technical side, let's say on the solution side, I mean, there is different, I would say, different wording: blockchain, IoT, PLM, ERP. So we hear a lot of words, and we at Dassault System, we don't like to tell this wording like that, because we have a platform that enable to manage as a backbone all this kind of information, but also the possibility to connect to other systems. So it's important to understand, when you think about, you are creating you are starting in this, you want to digitalize first, and then you want to go virtually. You need to think about your needs, but you need to select at least a solution that helps you to grow in the future, not just to fulfill the needs of today, but you need to think about the future, what will happen. So you need a platform that help you since the beginning to cover your current needs and the future needs, and also to connect with other platforms, because when it comes, for example, to blockchain, there is some great solution on blockchain but we can connect to them to feed them with the data that they need, for example. So this is where the system it play as I said before, the backbone and the layer of all your data, all your supply chain network, etc. And then we can feed other system. I'm not saying that we do everything. I mean, we are great to do, to manage all your supply network, but obviously we have to rely also on existing system, very vertical solutions that we can feed them with the information. This is where it become very important, this integration between our system with other systems in order to help customer. When it comes to IoT, for example, it's the same. We can read the data from any equipment, etc., or vehicle, wherever, but we bring the data to the platform, bring it into the real dashboarding, so you can understand at any time where the vehicle is etc. It doesn't mean that we have devices or we don't build components, so we are just a software company, but we can read data coming from an external devices, etc., and how to bring that to a visibility in real time to the user, to the people, to take any types of decision.
And sorry if I may also chime in and add some, right? Because I think it can be really summarized into two words, right? Data continuity, right?
Yes.
Because end of the day, I think, in Malaysia, there's so many companies of all sizes, right? And the key area to think about is, where is your data today, right? And for most company, I believe the data are either in paper forms, or maybe you have some form of automation, but these informations are not connected to each other. And so what we are trying to say here is that Dassault System, we have a platform that caters to businesses of all types. You can be small, you can be medium, you can be big, but you can start anywhere you want. And we are here to digitize your process and allow you to build that digital continuity from the beginning to the end, right? It doesn't mean you have to do a big bang approach and turn everything into a digital platform, right? You can start.
Okay, I think we lose Sam for a bit there.
Yeah, we'll come back to him later.
Yes, no worries, no worries. But Sam brought up a very good point that I would like to follow up on. Basically on data, the data compilation, the data bank. I believe any traceability type is just as good as the data bank that you have, right? So and you can consolidate all the different data into one data bank. But the first point of getting the data bank ready, how does this work? Like, where do you gather all this data information? Like, is there like a special division or people point of contact that actually key in all this input? I don't know. How does this work? Can you maybe share with us how do you start a data bank?
Yeah. So maybe, yeah, I mean, we have our data models at the end to receive the data. So generally, we work with our customer to analyze, let's say, paper data, for example. But what we will be doing, we'll be loading massively the data into our platform. So the first step of digitalization need obviously to manage the data of our customer, take them from all existing system or Excels, wherever, and then how to codify them in order to bring them into our platform. We don't do this manually. This is not normal. So what we'll be doing a mass loading, etc. But there is also other data, for example, that you may need coming from other source that we can build automation directly to read the data from this source and to have it immediately available in our platform. So there is different techniques in order to start. First, obviously, we need to take all out of the papers, let's say, because we need to digitalize them. So the first step is to adopt the data model, extend the data model also, because some customers have specific information related just to their context. They want to manage other information, but it will be very based on data loading and also connectivity with other database that we can bring. In addition to that, there is we provide also some of regulation, for example. So we connect also us with our platform to external database in real time, so you can check if your formula that you are creating is compliant. You can run also after some checks about halal, which is very important, because to run to say that, to certify and to have that claim that your product is halal, you need to be sure that your formula have all the certificate, etc. So this is where the data management become very important, because you need to manage all this data, manage a single version of the truth where you can find all the data, and it cannot be in when it's distributed in different systems, become very difficult, or at least you will arrive to manage to check, but it takes you time. This is the point. If you have a call today, can you certify? You need to answer quickly. This is where the platform become, because you are connecting all the data in one place. If you have to search it in different system, you may take 1 week, 2 weeks, sometimes to arrive to get all the data, which is in a world where we are competitive, where we want to bring product fast to market, and etc. This is where digitalization and virtual twin brings a lot of value.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Ken, do you want to add, or you're okay on that?
It's good. I'm all good. Only cover it all. Okay.
And welcome back, Sam. No worries. No problem at all. We managed to, spend a little bit on what you brought up earlier. Thank you so much for that. But let's talk about data again. You know, in the case of the halal industry, you have various halal certifications, from different countries. What do you think the prospect and challenges in terms of traceability when we have like similar standards, because there must be some demarcation, some differences from one to another. So do you think this makes like a very exciting experiment for Dassault system? We have different halal standards around the world. Of course, the gold standard is from Malaysia. So do you think we can analyze the differences and similarities among these standards, halal standards around the world?
That you brought a really important pinpoint, I would say, for many exporters from Malaysia, because the fragmentation and different standards, right?
Yeah.
Jakim, I say, has the gold standards already, right? But if you want to export to other markets, even to Singapore, for example, Singapore has MUIS has its own standards. Indonesia's MUI has its own standards. So when you want to develop new products, it's actually quite painful. It'd be quite nice to have one global standards. So if I take something called adjacent to halal products, Johanna, will be alternative protein, of plant-based protein, cultivated meat. So different countries have their own standards.
Mhm.
In fact, most countries do not even have standards yet. They don't even know how to approve, cultivated meat, for example. But that's what WHO has done recently. So WHO has embarked on the 3-year plan. So it's working with a university in Singapore to come up from a scientific perspective that one single version of truth by global standard, one global standard. So in the future, when this standard is ready, one global standard. So a Malaysian company that produces cultivated meat, for example, can now sell to any countries that recognizes the standards from WHO.
Mm.
So it opens up the market tremendously. So you don't have to be, wait, hang on, Indonesia, have they updated their standards? Have they changed anything? Is it something to do with packaging? Sometimes it's not even the processes, it's the choice of packaging product.
Mm.
So you need to constantly keep yourself abreast. But it's good to have so to answer the question, yes, it is a very, very exciting project if different parties come along. I would certainly see Jack Kim being the advocate and leading voice as the gold standard, having the credibility already to take it one next step to drive towards one global standards. That's my personal view there.
Thank you. And I saw that you look like you want to say something.
No, I totally agree with what Ken was saying. I mean, today the challenge, let's say, of the industry is this proliferation of standards. And I'm located in Europe. I can tell you, even in Europe, we have a lot of different standards, and we are even very key to do a lot of to put a lot of regulation. So this has become very important when you manage and you track. That's why again we come to the data. It's very important here because you need to understand to track all the information correctly, add all the certificate. I can have the same product with different certificate, but if I miss the certificate of Singapore and I'm sending that product to Singapore, maybe I'm getting an issue because I didn't verify that. But if I have all the certificate associated to my product, etc., the procurement, for example, the buyer is just go in the system. He see everything is ready, is compliant, is there. I can sell it. So this is where we become very fast because everything is tracked, everything is visible. Not everyone in the company need to check is certified or not. A procurement or a buyer, he just need to read the data and he just need to see his certificate is certified, so I can sell it. That's all. But there is other people in their organization who working, let's say, for him in order to make all this available and visible to the entire company.
Mm.
I think so. Become importance of the data here and how to manage them.
Okay.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I think it's a very exciting space for the Dassault system because we are very willing to work with governments from different parts of the world to really collate and centralize all this knowledge and data into a single platform so that, starting with Malaysia, maybe you're the global standard, the gold standard now, right? But we can work with Singapore, we can work with Indonesia and any halal community, right, to gather this into a library where any suppliers or any companies who wants to work with us, they get access to this information and knowledge of how the certification is done. And I'm sure that it becomes a centralized platform, especially in Malaysia. There are so many exports going out right now, right, out of Malaysia. I'm sure you'll be curious to know, how is the Singapore Halal standard, what kind of certification you need in this process, right? And that's where I think we play a part in these centralizations.
Mm. So very, very interesting indeed. But that also raised another question. In terms of data sharing, exclusivity of data keeping, of course, data is power. We can see that very clearly now moving forward. So when we consolidate all this information onto one platform, so based on your experience dealing with your clients, what is their behavior in terms of data protection and how do they strike a balance? Of course, it's great to have, everything articulated well through a solution. We can understand things better, what to do better. But how do you, at the same time, ensure that you share just enough for competitive reasons, but at the same time, not being not being too protective that it can backfire. So how maybe can you share some point of view in this regard based on your experience dealing with clients from around the world?
Well, you want to go first?
Yeah,
Yes,
obviously, our platform have a lot of security level in it. So even internally in the company, we can segregate data. Not everyone in the company can see all the data, which is normal. So this is the first segregation. And then obviously when it comes to sharing with external, generally you will be sharing, you are controlling what you are sharing. So you know what the data you are sharing. So the people doesn't access directly to your platform like that and Google it inside. No, it's not like that. So there is some security. Generally, if I'm communicating to a retailer some information about my product, I will be exporting data from my database, let's say, through standards like GS1 and others. So I will follow some of the standard of communication, but the data I have it in my platform, and I will export that through different techniques. Let's call it like that, like web services, they call it, etc. So there is different way to communicate and to share what is needed and only what is need to be shared. That's all. So we segregate. We have also the possibility to have kind of supplier portal. If your supplier, for example, is part of your extended supply chain, he need to connect to your system, but he will have like dedicated views only to him. So he will see only what he will see, and he cannot navigate into your data, because we protect the data of our customer, obviously, but the supplier can connect and can fill in his data, add his certificate, etc., etc., and then the data that he's entering, I will find it directly into the platform, but the supplier will never navigate into your data.
Yeah, I agree. Just to add on, Johanna, one thing that's very sensitive is IP protection, obviously. So when you work on a new formulation, be it cosmetics, skincare, shampoo, food and beverage, it belongs to you. So you need to be able to protect that. So it is traceable in the context within the four walls of it, but you don't have to share that.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't want our audience, the companies, to feel overwhelmed, with all this. Of course, it's complex, but I believe the long-term benefits would outweigh, the work that they have to do at the initial point of kickstarting their traceability journey. So maybe you can help share or help our audience visualize these long-term values that they can enjoy, if they start now and start doing traceability management better.
Wally, go ahead.
Yeah, I can go ahead. So, but I would recommend, obviously, start with small, think big. This is always the rule, and you will start first by digitalizing your product. First, you need to get out of paper, go manage system of record. This is the first step I'll see for all our customers, and then you start to map your supplier network, etc. And then you start to go more and more in advanced capability, because if you don't manage the data correctly today, you will not follow what I mean. The market, at least, or the industry, is going more and more into AI. We talk about AI. We didn't mention it a lot, but AI is becoming a commodity more and more. So, and AI need good data also. So if you are not building the data since the beginning, you cannot also take benefit from the AI to help you to go fast, to validate even virtually your product, etc., etc. So that's why I would recommend a customer to start today, to start by digitalizing first. So build the single version of the truth of his data, and then to go into, for example, the supply network, to manage all his supplier, and to track all the rules, etc. And then this will bring him, let's say we are talking more about a data driven strategy. This I will recommend to start, and this will open a lot of area after to customer, because you can go into packaging, you can go into the formulation, you can go in different spaces based on the need and the priority of the customers also, obviously.
Yeah, I'll jump in quickly because I think Joella mentioned about how SMU need to think long term, right? I would say you need to think about what your consumers want. And today, your consumers, they don't just want halal. They want halal plus tayyib plus sustainable. So you need to work backwards already to think about what the consumer wants in the future and begin to develop the kind of products that consumer aspire to have within
Mhm.
that. So traceability is just part of that. Meeting compliance standard is just part of that. But think about a bit more holistically, which thinking about your sustainability metrics, thinking about type as a concept, and of course, halal is a requirement.
Mhm. Okay. And of course, I think I'm thinking out loud. I'm pretty sure a lot of the companies out there, especially at the operational level, they might be wondering who is actually responsible in the company to manage traceability of the company operations. So is it usually the procurement team or the sales team, or maybe you can share your experience? Who actually usually manage traceability in a company?
I think overall, the bugs stop with the CEO, quite frankly. If I say the bugs will stop at the desk of CEO, can the CEO hold someone else accountable? Yes, of course. And then that would be the quality assurance team. Quality assurance team would have a transversal responsibility to cut across sourcing, formulation, packaging, production, and logistic. Each of them need to be responsible for their own specific domain, but quality assurance is a transversal discipline that cut across. And traceability is certainly part of that, the scope of the QA or QC team.
Okay. And Sam or Wally, if you want to add on.
Yeah, I think I agree. Obviously, the chief information officer is the key, one of the key, because he need to ensure that the data is traced, and as I said, there is different owner of the data and consumer of the data in a company. There is people who will own, who will alter the data, and people will consume it. So, for example, a procurement will be always a consumer of the data. He will not, he will never alter a certificate wherever. He just use a certificate, etc. So you will have people owning the data. These people, obviously, it can be different organization, can be R&D for the product,
Yeah.
supply chain, obviously, and manufacturing for the operation team for all what is downstream. So you have two entities, but they work together because the data flow from upstream to downstream. So there is a handover of taking the data. So that's why quality assurance are everywhere, because we have quality assurance in R&D, we have quality assurance in supply chain. Even when I create the product, I test it in the lab, but even in the plant, we have a lab system or LIMS solutions where I have a quality team who need to certify all the input coming from R&D, because R&D is giving me the tolerance, the acceptance criteria of a product, for example, before I ship it. So this data is owned by R&D, but it's consumed by quality assurance. Quality assurance are doing the test downstream, etc. So that there is, based on the kind of data, there is different owner in a company. So if I am an R&D, for sure, I will be owning the formulation, the packaging. If I am supply chain, I will be owning all the supply network and all the manufacturing processes, for example. But these two teams works together tightly, because an R&D will create the process, but when I go to a scale up, producing 5 kilo of something and producing 1 tons is done the same thing. So there is a lot of collaboration between the two teams. And that's where the data become very important, to have the visibility on the same data from the two organizations. Because even if there is a defect in a supply chain, a defect in the manufacturing, it will be good to bring the information to R&D quickly, because it could be fixed maybe from the initial of the product design, not just a problem of a manufacturing. And this is what we are seeing today at our customer when we talk about silos, because organization doesn't talk to each other, and our platform help them to cut that silos, because we can have R&D close to manufacturing. And this is the winning recipe for me for companies today, because you need to have to this entity working together and have visibility either on upstream, downstream together. This will create a lot of power for company and a competitive advantage, because they know each other, these two organizations, and they can fix the problem very, very, very fast. Maybe I will
Okay.
let Sam, if you want to add something.
Sure, I think Wally, you gave a perfect answer in a sense. From my point of view, the upstream and the downstream departments, they need to speak to one another. But this word traceability is no easy feat, and it really depends on the priority of the companies as well. Even we talk about the maturity of traceability, it also depends on company to company, right? Maybe some companies look at food safety as a highest priority, so perhaps production needs to look at it first. Maybe quality wants to look at it first, but maybe some company looks at developments of new product as the highest priority. So that's where traceability in terms of R&D is to come in first. But from my point of view, I think everybody is in charge of it, and it takes everyone's effort to make sure that there's a full end-to-end traceability. Technology is just an enabler, right, of such a benefits for the company. But starting from the CEO right down to the operators, everybody plays a part to make sure that the companies achieve this objective. Yeah.
Yeah. And that also, it made me think that, the irony of big companies, oftentimes the working in silos is very much, relevant to big companies because
Yep.
it's just too overwhelmed, right? That people end up just working on their own. So does this mean that it would be easier for smaller companies to adopt traceability? If they start early, it'd be easier for them, right? So what do you think of that? Is it true?
I think it's a fascinating point now that you mentioned it, because many of our biggest customers, they ask us what's going on in another division in the same company.
Yeah.
Because we serve their multiple division, multiple sites. They say, what's going on there? But you're absolutely right. I think this is perhaps one area that SMEs could have some advantage, because you have 1, 2, or 3 people taking all the decision quickly, right? Yeah, you're absolutely right. I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
I agree completely with the view. Big companies, they have also a legacy behind. They have, I mean, to take decisions sometimes, as Ken mentioned, it takes can take longer even to take a commitment. So as SMB company have the advantage that they are very agile, let's call it like that,
yeah.
respect to other companies that have other processes very sometimes very rigid. And also big company, they are trying to become more agile to react as a SMB company. I want to be clear here, because we are observing that big company want to become very, very agile to take quick decision like SMB, because they see them as a new competitor, but with much flexibility SMB, so they can adapt their business, their rules, etc., easily, respecting to a big company. So it's true. So today, big company have a bit of difficulty to go fast than an SMB company.
Yeah. And of course, that bears a question of adherence. I guess the bigger you are, the more bureaucratic things can be. And often it's very much process driven to make sure that you adhere to, the rules and regulations in place. Whereas smaller companies, they might, have a leeway in this area. Yeah, so that's a good point that I hope that our Malaysian companies out there, the small size companies, I just wanted to highlight that you shouldn't be scared, towards traceability efforts. And that also maybe before we have a few minutes left, perhaps can we talk about costs, and also the complexity. So how do you think can small companies manage? Is it high cost? First of all, is it true that it's high cost? It's very costly to do traceability in a company, number one. And number two, how can they manage their financials to make sure that, they are not left behind in traceability? Because now it's still an option, but I think in a few years' time, it's going to be a necessity, as world economies are adopting various regulations. For example, the EU, the Sustainability Due Diligence Act. So in a few years' time, it's going to be a necessity for sure. So maybe you can share a little bit from your point of view how companies can understand this point.
Sure. I think that's a great question you have raised. Cost is always a consideration. I would like to say cost is not a factor, but it is always a consideration. But what I would advise companies to do is to focus on the business value instead of only cost. So if you want to work with any vendor to bring in some of the sustainable traceability practices, I'll go back to what Woody mentioned too, is to start small, but scale fast. So it's then start small, say, focusing just on manufacturing process only, get the process right, and then scale it up again. Then you can go upstream within the product development and then sourcing, etc., etc. So start small and grow fast. And we work with the technology providers, ask them to help you calculate the value and not just the cost. They will be able to help you calculate the return of investment for each of those investments, for example. And then within that also, I think Walid had alluded to, is that we adopt a kind of platform approach. I would say don't go for standalone piecemeal solution, because they may work out cheaper, but in few years down the road, you realize they don't integrate, they cannot talk to each other. Then you're going to create this unintentional silo. So start with a platform approach and plug in the different modules based on the processes. And then I would say for SMEs also, really tap into what the government of Malaysia has to offer. Malaysian government is doing a lot in terms of support, different grants, different subsidies. So avail of those support that's already provided. And then maybe the last one is that in terms of, it's not just traceability, it's just not regulatory compliance, but I'm just thinking in a process where you really want to develop winning products for a target audience. And that is one way to do is to learn the best practices, not just within your own domain of F&B, not just within your own domain of cosmetic, but look outside, look from other industries and learn from their best practices, because those guys have learned from the school hard knocks, and we can learn from them as well. If I take one quick example on the traceability, if we take the aircraft or aviation industry, it is highly, highly regulated. And one single aircraft has millions and millions of components. And every single component, down to every single school, you need to be able to trace back. So for aircraft aviation industry, traceability, to what you alluded to, without that, you cannot operate any business. So I think for us today is an exciting time in Malaysia with different SME, is to really take it as it's no longer a nice to have. It's not even for the need of compliance, but I would look at it as your passport to global competitiveness. If you can do that well, the credibility of your brand will really go up. And I think the Malaysian brand will do really well globally.
Thank you. And Walid and Sam, you want to share a few words before we conclude today's session?
On my side, I think, yes, don't think about cost of the solution as mentioned by Ken. I agree totally. You need to think about the value that the digitalization will bring to you, the traceability. You need always think about value. We can help you also to understand, to get an ROE about what does it mean adopting a digital solution for your traceability, etc. The cost for me just if we show you that there is value, and if you project yourself also in 5 years from now as a company, and you understand the value that the digitalization traceability will bring to you, I think the cost has become margin. If you see, obviously, the use case, if we demonstrate that the ROE is much important than the cost. Obviously, technology, I think Sam mentioned it before, it's an enabler. It's an enabler to help you to go fast. So don't think about just the cost. Think more about the value that this would bring to you. And again, avoid siloed solution. And then to connect them at the end, you will find yourself after 6-7 years maybe to rebuild again your systems, IT system again, because at the end you will discover that you need a platform that cut the silos. So I would recommend maybe to start since the beginning by putting the right foundation to help you for your future growth, and as a modular approach that you can activate during your journey at the end.
Yeah. And for me, I think I'll just put it this way. First thing you should do is to come and speak to us, right? Because to be honest, don't let the cost in your mind stops you from achieving your greater goals, right? Because you never know what we are offering on the table here. And I can assure you, we know the market in Malaysia. They are big boys. They are also SME players, and 95% of the companies in Malaysia are mainly SMEs. We're aware of that. So we are also likely to be price sensitive towards anybody who works with us. But more importantly, as what Wadi and Ken has mentioned, the values that we bring onto the table is really from big boys and our experiences that we would like to share with you and to ensure that you are capable of scaling yourself fast and also elevating yourself into the next level, into the global stage. That's where we hope that you can be at, and we are here to help you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And hopefully, you know, today's engagement can maybe spark a conversation within Dassault system to maybe come up with a specialized package for our Malaysian SMEs.
Sure.
You know, I was just thinking out loud just now, like I had an idea. It would be great if Dassault system has a dedicated, customized program for our PKS. PKS is the Malaysian word for SME, perusahaan kecil and sederhana. So imagine if you have Dassault system PKS. Oh, that would be fantastic. You know, that would be very, very innovative, but in a very meaningful and is accessible. You're making your solution accessible for the masses. I think that would create a lot of meaning and again, the connection, emotional connection. Like I mentioned, this is you know, F&B mainly related to halal. It's a very emotional industry, so perhaps we can discuss that moving forward. And to our Malaysian companies out there, like Sam mentioned, don't be scared to talk to Dassault System. Yes, they are a global company, a global giant, but they are also powered by human beings as well, just like us. You
Yes.
know, and so perhaps Sam, they can reach out to you. You had your contact details earlier. And to our Malaysian companies, if you want to know more, you can also reach out to MATRADE. You can email me as well, zuhaila@matrade.gov.my, or you can find, I'm pretty sure you can find all of us on LinkedIn. And I think, gentlemen, we can conclude our today's session. I really would like to thank all of you for sharing your insights. Very, very good conversation that we had today. And hopefully we can do more moving forward. And with that, I would like to conclude today's session. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And feel free to watch this episode anywhere and anytime that you want. It's available 24/7. It's a dedicated knowledge hub program under MIHAS. Of course, MIHAS is the world's largest halal trade fair, and in 2025 is taking place from the 17th until the 20th of September. And we are highlighting not only F&B sector but also 14 other segments, clusters, economic clusters, including pharmaceutical, cosmetics, logistics, even manufacturing technology. So the opportunities are endless. And once again, thank you so much, Ken, Walid, and Sam, for sharing your knowledge and time with us. And hopefully we can do something similar in the future.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.